I'm WG, and it's time we talk about something that has been brewing ever since we now know how SaveData works, and that's the idea of low card or no card decks. So in this video you'll be learning everything you need to know about no card or low card decks and how you can get them yourself or what you could even do with those. So as always, you have the chapters on the timeline. Let's have a bit of talk about them. So these no card decks are quite obvious, cards that include no, or decks that include no cards, whereas a low card deck could, for example, be something like a barrel featuring a guilty pleasure that allows you to draw 3 and then exhaust itself, meaning then her deck goes from a 1 card to a 0 card deck, or even decks with, for example, upgrade cards in general, because upgrade cards you only play out once and then you don't draw them again. Now, what is the whole reason behind you even wanting something like this in the first place? And that is, if you only have 2 characters that have decks, you can also only ever draw into these characters cards. A character without cards in their deck cannot have their cards drawn. That's the shenanigan. And then you can obviously take this a couple steps further and the like, with somebody like a Veronica who has this draw 2 cards from other combatants skill, which now then, for example, if you get like the cost reduction epiphany, turns this into a 2 card draw that guarantees you drawing the cards of somebody else, right? And that somebody else is guaranteed to be the one that doesn't have a no card deck. So there's a bunch of shenanigans you can do with this, but the simple explanation is if you only have 2 characters that have decks, you massively increase the chances of you drawing into cards of characters that you want. So now, just as a little example, we'll be going in with 2 no card characters and a 7 card Luke. This Luke has 2 upgrade cards himself, and then if we play out these 2 upgrade cards, as you should already be able to surmise, all of a sudden we now only have 5 cards. What that means is that now from every turn onwards, we would be guaranteed to draw into the same hand over and over again without any fail, because we obviously always draw 5 cards at the beginning of a turn. So if you have a 5 card deck or a concept of a deck that can draw itself or play itself, you'll always be able to get exactly this hand right here at the beginning of every turn. So that's, for example, a 0/0 cost. So now what does it take for you to pull this off? First off, your 0 system needs to be fully maxed out, and that is because you need this divine representation upgrade protocol, because not necessarily trick, but one of the requirements for you to pull this off is that you get the 3rd choice from the divine representative, and then along the way you'll also get, for example, the chance for the shop to appear more, which also is quite crucial to this. So step 1 is have your 0 system maxed out. Now, step 2 is going to revolve with the seasonal chaos and the ability for you to re-observe an area. Now, the ability to re-observe starting from difficulty 8 gives you the chance to go up to tier 14, and tier 14 SaveData is actually rather important. And we'll go a bit more into the specifics, but what you need to know. Now, step 2 has to do with the seasonal chaos. The seasonal chaos not only has events required for you to successfully pull this off, doesn't have a punishment for you to leaving a map, but it also has the ability to reroll SaveData or SaveData value, and that is quite important. So there is 2 ways you can do this. Way number 1, you go the hard way, you go the you need a lot of luck way. Then you can do this at any SaveData cap of 10 or higher. At any SaveData cap of 10 or higher, so long as you can save 100 SaveData points, you'll be able to pull 0 card or low card decks off. But if you want it easier, if you want it safer, if you want it more reliable, then you have to roll for a tier 14 map. Tier 14 maps can start appearing once you get to difficulty 8, and then it's going to take you anywhere from average 200 to 400 refreshes to get to a tier 14 map. Then again, tier 14 maps only make it easier, they aren't required unless you do not fulfill condition number 3. And condition number 3, at least when we're talking about 0 card decks, is the idea that the moment you hit a character's first potential. When entering Chaos, obtain one rare card with an activated Epiphany. Things become a lot more difficult. If you are not playing on tier 15 or base level tier 14 with Nightmare, you are unable to make a 0 cost or a 0 card deck should your character have a potential. So what that means is you'll have an easier time doing it on characters that do not have any potential, the same way I did it on a Selena and an Amir, but it is not impossible to do it on a character that already has their potential unlocked. It just requires more luck, or I guess a bigger time investment. So now, before we get into the actual run, let's talk a bit about how these save datas came to pass and what they should tell you. So first off, the baseline is if you remove 3 cards, it costs you 100 points. So that is the way it works. You remove 3 cards of your character, it costs you 100 points. You remove 4, it costs you 170. That is why tier 15 is so useful, because it allows you to just remove 4 cards straight up, and then it costs you 170, you leave the chaos, boom, job done. Whereas if you want to be able to do it with 100 faint memory, that requires you to remove 3 cards with the standard remove, but have the 4th card be removed through the removal event that we'll talk about a bit more later. And that also means that if you ever want to remove 5 cards of a character, which is a requirement should a character have that potential unlocked, because you're going to start with your starting 4 and get 1, then that requires you to play on difficulty 15 for the 4 card removal for 170, and then find the removal event to remove that 5th card, so long as you want a 0 card deck rather than a 1 card deck. So just for those of you curious, which characters do actually benefit the most from having a no card deck? So it's not a big advantage, but in general what you're looking for is ego skills, because the character always has the ego skill, deck or not. And manifest egos, because manifest egos usually tend to give you something that works outside of a character. So for example, a Ray can give you a 20% bonus for all your attack cards, regardless of if she has cards or not, as well as also having this 1 AP 400% damage ego skill. Then again, Ray is also a character who is really good with the deck, so you'll have to kind of see about it, but better have a deck than not have a deck, I guess. Though then again, also it's going to be quite hard to get a 0 cost one, and I personally won't bother with it because I've upgraded my Ray already. Now then we also have somebody like an Amir. So Amir can grant you a big shield with her ego skill while removing Metalize and then giving you Metalize, so you can kind of get like a save button. And she can also give herself Metalize outside of the fight by gaining 2 at the start of a battle or 1 at the start of every turn, which can then allow her to attack while you give yourself a shield without Amir actually having any cards in this deck. So then we also have somebody like a Lucas. A Lucas just has a really damn strong ego skill in allowing you to draw 3 while doing AoE damage. And then Lucas is also one of those candidates where you kind of want to go for example, just an extended magazine in your deck instead of anything else, and then you just play it out, you get some bullets, and the rest of the cards aren't even there. So that's kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for good ego skills, and you're looking for potential ego manifestations that can give you a little bit of a boost, but it's mainly irrelevant. It's more about a character in general not having any cards. Alright, so let's go step by step through what you want to do if you want this to succeed. So step number 1 is you find yourself your chaos. You either go the hard route and don't do tier 14, or you do the easier route and do 14. Then team building wise, what you want to bring is, I found it the most successful if you bring 2 level 60 DPSs, because you're not going to be playing the chaos the whole way through. You obviously get a bit more context later, but overall you'll only want to just really get through the enemies fast. And or you could just bring a Mika and a character, and then obviously whoever you want to 0 deck. So now that you have then that out of the way, you're going to activate Nightmare mode, you're going to head into the boss, and you're going to get to the Divine Encounter. So for the Divine Encounter, you only really care about the 3rd buff on the side, and then you take your time reading the buff. Every time it doesn't say remove 2 cards, you quit. That is the reality of things, that is the way it goes. You go out, you can still make it work like that, but the odds of that happening are super, super tiny. So this is what you do. You don't see it, you go out, you rinse and repeat. Increases and select and remove 2 cards. There's 2 variants of this. Either your HP gets cut by 30%, not max HP, just damage, or you get increased stress and then you are able to remove cards. Any of the remove 2 works, and the stress 20 could actually be a little bit of a cheese, and that is in general the base plan here is to never get epiphanies for the character you want to get rid of the cards of. And the trick here would be, if your character is in breakdown, they cannot get any epiphanies. Though it is heavily unreliable and it is not necessary, so you just pick whatever you get. So here, for example, we have the stress, and then we go out of our way to remove 2 cards of the character. In general, it doesn't make a difference which 2 cards you remove. I tend to remove the shield and attack and just keep the special card, because the special card can at least help you a bit with the fights, but it really doesn't make a difference. You could remove whatever. So long as the character still has a card, they'll also get an epiphany. And that also gives you the base goal of this. And the base goal of this is you're playing Epiphany Dodgeball. You're playing Epiphany Dodgeball. You never want to get an epiphany for a character. So that is also where the map comes in. So let's talk a little bit about the map. First off, you can only ever gain epiphanies in fights. You can only gain an epiphany in a normal fight, or in a elite fight, or if you take a fight in an area, right? So your main goal is you want to take as few fights as possible to minimize the chance of your Emir or of whoever you're currently targeting getting an epiphany, because every epiphany is deadly. If you only have a save data cap of 100 points, the moment you get 1 epiphany for the character, it's over. If you have a save data cap of 170 points, you can stomach 1 epiphany, but 1 epiphany only. The moment you get 2 epiphanies or 6 total cards, it is also over in the process of going towards a 0 cost deck. So there's that. So what you're looking for is question marks, campfires, and especially campfires with the shop, because at the shop you have the guaranteed removal event, you could say. So that is what you do here, and then you kind of want to find the path of the least fights possible to get right there. Now, what do waypoints have to do with anything? That is, waypoints are, the moment you hit a waypoint, you can quit the run without losing your save data. So you need to go to a waypoint, and after the waypoint, the moment you collect the gear from the waypoint, you can safely escape and then keep your save data. So you need to at minimum make it there, and there's the challenge in that. So there is 2 ways. Either you never get an epiphany to get there, or you hit 2 removal related events like a shop or a removal event that then allows you to get rid of the last 2 cards of a character. And if you get rid of the last 2 cards of a character, that means if a character has no cards, they can't get any epiphanies. So you could also continue the run further if you were to look for gear. The moment a character has 0 cards in their deck, they cannot get any epiphanies anymore. So what we see right here is us going into the fight. So what you do is very simple. You check your hand cards and you check your deck pile. The moment you see the epiphany symbol, you see if it's for your character. If it's for your character, you basically just leave the fight. You just go out, try it again, right? Here, for example, we didn't hit a single Emir epiphany. So now let's just quickly go through the fight, and then after us beating the fight, our first encounter is a removal event. We then use this removal event to get rid of another Emir card, bringing us down to exactly 1 of her cards. So now we either hit a removal event, the remove event, which would allow us to remove a further card at no cost, or yeah, that's kind of what we're looking for, or obviously a shop. So now we have a campfire, now we go in here, we find this, and this is just a standard event. It doesn't do anything for us. We get ourselves some credits so that we can afford more, and obviously with the gear pieces, you want to make sure that you don't put any epiphanies in any way, shape or form on the character. Now we encounter another fight, we check out our hand, and as you can see, we have the epiphany symbol on our Rin. That means our run is still good. These are only going to be Rin epiphanies, and we can continue. So then we continue with the fight right here. Ta-da, we make our way through, and then we can also work on, for example, putting some gear pieces on our character. Next up, we'll continue again into another question mark event right here. And we are actually hitting the removal event. So now the reason why this removal event is so special is because it's pretty much the way you think of it is a cost-free remove. The removal event is necessary if you want to remove a character, if you want a zero card deck on a character that already has a potential, the first potential, meaning you start the run with 5 cards, or if you start the run with 4 cards, but you hit an epiphany, you can still make up for it by finding the removal event. So just because you hit an epiphany doesn't mean the run is automatically over, so long as you play on tier 15, that is. If you don't play on tier 15, even with the removal event, the run is basically a goner. So then right here, what is also important and what you could be doing is save your save your Eye of the Sand, Sand of Time, whatever thing once. If you have the dice reroll skill, you can then use it here, because it is very important for you to hit the dice roll. Otherwise, this removal event or remove card event becomes useless. So as you can see, we're now going to be transforming our last card, the Hovering Metal, into a mutant sample, and with that our run is finished. The moment we hit the waypoint and then leave, we're going to have a 0 card deck. What is important though is if you hit the removal on a character, that still doesn't mean they are free from epiphanies. Our character could still be getting an epiphany, and that is why if we decide to push this further, the moment we see the epiphany symbol on a mirror, we're going to be leaving the run. So the moment you make it past the waypoint, you can still push further into question mark events, into other events, but the moment you then see the epiphany symbol on your character, you can just escape mid-run, because if you don't end the battle, you also don't get the epiphany so long as you don't play the card. So that is pretty much that. And then so long as your character still doesn't have any epiphanies or the like, you can also head to a shop and then at that shop buy something for the character, right? You could buy some equipment just to make the character a little stronger, but most equipment is pretty irrelevant on a no card character.